Hello bookish friends. I read an old school Fabio Lanzoni romance book as a science experiment, thinking it was going to be probably problematic, yes, but also campy and fun, and we could have a good time discussing it. And I was wrong. This book was not fun, and we will not be having a good time discussing it because it was very, very deeply racist. It is very hot at the minute. We're doing another heat wave in the UK. I've actually not been feeling very well today, and I think part of that might be to do with the heat. So obviously the only sensible thing for me to do was to make myself a hot cup of tea. That's really going to help me in my present situation. So let's talk about Comanche, which, you know, I didn't anticipate no wrongdoing in this book. We have already got Fabio Lanzoni on the cover portraying what is supposed to be a half Native American, half white character, and he is a white man with a feather in his hair. Oh, I've got my cinematic mode on and it's not focusing. Oh well, to be honest, probably for the best. We knew it wasn't going to be great going in. And it was written in 1995, so we extra knew it wasn't going to be great going in, but we thought that maybe, just maybe, there could be something redeemable about it. It would be more campy than problematic. Here's the basic premise. A half-white, half-Native American man wants to find a wife, however, no one will marry him because he is mixed race. So his friend is like, I will find you a mail order bride, and he's like, cool, but only on the condition that you tell her about the fact that I'm half Native American, and he's like, yeah. And then his friend just don't tell the bitch, don't tell her, and she comes to come get married to him. He has blue eyes, which all of the half white, half Native American characters in this book have like green eyes, blue eyes. That's not how genetic works 99% of the time, but you know, God forbid they have brown eyes, I guess. She just thought he was like a tanned white man, I suppose, and she goes and marries him. Now, on their wedding night, they're about to smash. The conversation was flowing, the vibes were good, everything was great. Unfortunately, however, that's when she discovers that he is, in fact, half Native American, and the heroine is super duper racist. Super duper racist, and immediately blows up and says some despicable, heinous racist things. And immediately runs away. So the hero, at a loss with what to do, goes and visits his grapist father, who is the chief of the Comanche tribe. We'll get back to the dad in a bit, don't you worry. And he's basically like, Papa, you know women, you've graped several. What do I do about my bitch wife? And his papa is like, well, why don't you do what I did with your mother and kidnap her? So he does. He kidnaps her and he brings her to their tribe, and she is forced to like assimilate and live with him, and he's like, you will accept my Native American side, and she's like, I will never accept you. And through many hundreds of pages, she learns to accept him, and there is a beautiful love story. Just kidding. I mean, she does accept him, and I think the authors think that there's a beautiful love story. However. So this book was written by Fabio Lanzoni, who was a very, very famous cover model for books in the 90s, well, the 70s, 80s, 90s. And so I guess he decided to capitalise on that fame by pretending to write a book. I say pretending because this book is openly in collaboration with Eugenia Riley. Now, I've not read any of her old school romances. I certainly don't think I will be after this book, but I don't know who wrote what. I'm not a betting woman. If I was, I would put money on the fact that probably Eugenia Riley wrote most of this and Fabio Lanzoni wrote none of it, maybe contributed some ideas, maybe if that. That's what I would bet, but I have no evidence to prove it. But just in case what I've said already hasn't been explicitly clear, trigger warnings, I guess, for racism, racist pseudoscience, racist slurs, which I'm obviously not going to repeat, but they are used. Just racism. DV, the threat of DV, the threat of grape, actual grape, unalivement, trauma. Just, do you have a trigger? Maybe you sit this one out, is what I'm saying. So I knew that I had done a fucky wucky by starting this book within the first 27 pages, because within the first 27 pages, the hero admits, him being a half Native American, half white man, that he wanted to fight for the Confederacy. He makes fun of his wife for suggesting that women should have the right to vote, and then follows that up with, "As I studied law." He uses a slur for black people, and then equally he expresses extreme disappointment in his mind, continuously and repeatedly throughout the book as well, which is great, that his heroine might not be innocent. She is. Thank God he didn't marry a whore. Page 33, the heroine, who was previously fine. You know some shit is going to be up with her. You know she's going to have to be fucky for the book. Previously, though, up until this point, she's been good, but 33 pages in, she is deeply racist, as I said, once she finds out that he is half Native American. Now, her excuse for this is that she had a fiance. He went off to war, and he was taken captive by the Native Americans and tortured to unalivement. And the thing is, right, this is a romance. Let's just remember that. This isn't an exploration of racism within people and how people's minds can change in a beautiful story about someone who has prejudices and racist beliefs, who changes through meeting the people that they are prejudiced and racist against. It's a romance, so I kind of need to like the characters to an extent. There needs to be no like fundamental massive like I can't get over this issues with them from the start. And it would be like if an Asian man came and killed my husband, and then I decided, okay, I hate all Asian people because one Asian man killed my husband. How do you get on board with a protagonist like that? It took the bitch 350 pages to be like, maybe I don't hate all Native Americans. Maybe not every Native American in existence is responsible for the death of my fiancé. With the book, we have a hateful heroine and we have a hateful hero. There is craft in the way that they make me forget that the heroine is a fucking huge racist in this book. I feel sorry for her at times because of what she is put through. So the hero lives in between these two worlds. He regularly goes and spends time with his tribe, and he regularly walks in what they refer to throughout the book as the white man's world. His sins are plentiful. The very first one that we get very early in the book is his backstory of how he was born. How did this half Native American, half white man come to be? Was it a story of true and pervading love? No, it was a story of kidnap and rape and abuse. His dad is the chief of the Comanche tribe. And basically, he saw his mum, who was engaged to another man, or that man, she was widowed recently or something. It honestly wouldn't have mattered either way. He saw his mum, and he really liked her. So he was like, mine. And he kidnaps her, and he forces her to become his third wife, even though she doesn't want to be. And he grapes her repeatedly throughout the whole of their many-year relationship. He regularly beats her and abuses her, and she hates him. And at one point in the book, the heroine asks, do you not hate your dad for what he did to your mum? And the hero straight up says to her, no, there's no part of my life or upbringing that I'm ashamed of. I was sat there like... And we learn this about his father really early on. And we're also introduced to his father within the first 100 pages. And when the hero internally monologues about what happened to his mother, his whole thing is like, this happened factually. Anyway, moving on. My beloved father. On several occasions, throughout the entire book pretty much, because we don't get to the point where they actually kind of like each other until near the end of the book, and it's 400 and something pages long. The hero regularly threatens to beat his heroine. At one point, the hero is called Bronson, the heroine is called Maggie. I'll start using their names. At one point, it is literally stated in the book when Maggie is defiant, because she's very feisty and defiant and won't bow down to him. At one point she is defiant to him, and it literally says in the book that he clenched his fist and he almost hit her, but he only just stopped himself. And on several occasions he threatens to beat her, and he's like, I will beat you. I will abuse you. And she is genuinely scared because she genuinely thinks it's going to happen. I guess the authors draw their line on he might want to beat her and he might threaten to do it, but he's not gonna actually do it. So I guess that's where the romance came in for them. It was romantic that he didn't beat his wife, I guess. The bar is in hell at this point. Equally, I guess they drew the line in terms of grape in their minds, because he was like, I'm not going to grape her at all, I guess. She has to submit to me fully and want it, which is fine in theory, but in practice that's not what happens, because there are multiple occasions where she is telling him no, and she might be like getting into it, but equally she is saying no and she doesn't want it even if her body is reacting, right? And there are multiple occasions where he's like, baby, 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 just the tip, baby, 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 and I'm gonna need you. I've done it. It's just the tip right now, and I'm gonna need you to chill the fuck out about this, because it's just the tip and that doesn't count. And you can tell that in the author's minds this is not grape, but it is grape though. It's not like, oh, it's just the first inch, doesn't count. No, it counts. It counts. So I mean, the hero does in fact grape his heroine multiple times, actually. There is also some weird shit throughout the whole book, and this is not unique. To be honest, none of this is unique to this book. A lot of old school romances suffer from at least one or more of these things, right? The racism, the physical threat of physical danger, the SA, that kind of thing. And this as well. There is concern throughout the whole book that she might not be innocent. And God forbid he married a woman that is not chaste and pure for him. And it was pretty gross. It was pretty disgusting. When they actually do the spicy time for the first time, the author really lingers on the fact that this is her first time. We get a pretty gross kind of description of him breaching her virginal membrane, is the term used for the first time. Really fetishizing that kind of thing, and slut shaming, and yeah, all of these things, just that weird proprietary old school romance thing of she must be untouched so that I can touch her first and she will be the only one. Obviously he's hoed around with every bitch that will have him. He makes that very clear in the book. He does whatever with whoever he wants, but God forbid his woman does the same, right? And I mean, do I need to go on? I hope I have accurately portrayed why this hero is fucking rancid. So I think what we can go on now to is talking about the language used, the way that Native Americans are portrayed versus white people, and how white people fit into the story. So hold on for that. It's about to get yikes. One of the things that I found most insidious about this book is the way that Native American people are just described as being terrible people, like horrible people, so casually and without any kind of moral aspersions cast on there. And the word savages, primitives, even primordial is throughout the entire book used to describe Native Americans. And I am very keenly aware of the fact that I am British. We in the UK, or at least in England, I can't speak for, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales so much, but I imagine it's probably the same. We get taught next to nothing about Native Americans or their culture. So I am keenly aware that I undoubtedly have not picked up on all of the ways that this book is terribly racist, but even to me, it was very glaringly obvious. And I found it really insidious the way that the Native Americans are portrayed is done so casually as a matter of fact, because it just subconsciously gives the impression of we're not even thinking about this in a moral sphere. This is just how these people are. And what they are portrayed as are people who are generally grapists. They treat women like slaves. They have no respect for them. They are violent and they just kill people. They are polygamists even when the wives don't want that. And ultimately, they're just a brash, savage barbarian-y type people. I could tell the authors thought they were doing something with this. They thought they were making a point, because they also try to really engage with the conflict at the time, because it's historical. It was set in the 1800s between Native American tribes and white people, and they bring in some stuff about how, you know, talking about the tribe a little bit, and we spend a lot of our time in the book with the tribe, which was heinous, to be quite frank, because of how they're portrayed. But there's a lot about the conflict with the white people and the Native Americans, and they go in a little bit talking about Native American culture and stuff like that. But you cannot expose and highlight racism and make points against racism whilst being racist. So everything that they tried to do was completely undermined by the fact that the whole book is really racist. There is a lot of pseudoscience in this book. For example, one of the big claims that's made is that Native American women have problems with fertility. They regularly have miscarriages, they struggle to just get pregnant, and so they regularly kidnapped white women to be used as breeders, and that's how Bronson, the hero's mother, was kidnapped, because they need white breeders. I mean, I don't know anything about Native Americans and culture, but I don't think that's true. I googled it, and in fact the internet told me that's not true. Racist pseudoscience. I've already talked a little bit about the language used in terms of primitive, primordial, barbarian, savage. There is also a word that I'm not going to say the word. I had not heard of this word before. I had no idea what this word meant. It is the S word, right? I'm just going to call it the S word. If you want to look it up, you probably will be able to put in the information I tell you and find out what that word is. But I don't want to say it. I had never heard of this word, but every woman that is Native American in the book is referred to as the S word, and every white woman that is within a Native American tribe is referred to as a white S word. So I just thought that it was perhaps a Native American term for women, so I Google it. It is apparently a deeply offensive and deeply misogynistic term for Indigenous Native American women. And that is throughout the whole book. Like I said, you've got a slur for black people in there right at the beginning. It only happens once, but nevertheless it's in there. So you've just got slurs going out willy-nilly. And then you've got the way that white people are treated in this tribe, which is they are kidnapped as breeders, right? Apparently. And the hero at one point acknowledges to the heroine, the average white captive female brought to live amongst the Comanche is stripped, beaten, raped, and tortured. And he says this to her, those are the words that he says this to her to make the point, maybe you should be a bit more appreciative, darling, that I have only almost beat you, and I have only graped you with just the tip, which in his mind is not grape because it's just the tip. Goodness gracious. What do you say to that? And that is an example of the insidious racism where this isn't even commented on morally in the book. No one condemns this. I mean, the heroine is like, you're all disgusting savages. So I guess she kind of does, but the book itself and the narration itself does not make any kind of moral commentary on this. It's just like, yeah, this is what Native Americans do. It's just what they do. Moving on. Sometimes the writing was hilarious, and that was like the only part of the book that I could say was even remotely enjoyable. Like, there is one part where she hurts her ankle, so her husband dunks her in a lake for a bit, and then he does the just the tip baby 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 thing, and then the next morning she was like, she says the words, I wish to take his vibrant seed inside of me, and never have I heard of spunk being described that way. That was really funny. I did enjoy that. The whole premise of the book and the message of the book is like, look at this primitive savage. Will the virtuous white woman succumb to his primordial allure? That's the entire book. And there is a line on page 341 out of a 410-ish page book that I think probably sums this up, where the heroine says to him, there are two men living inside of you, the untamed savage and the civilized white man. And I think that really sums up how the book sees Native Americans and white men, despite the fact that they're clearly trying to make some kind of anti-racist positive message here. They see the Native Americans as uncivilized, barbarian savages, and they see white people as civilized white people. And I mean, the book ultimately ends, there's like this evil sheriff or something that's introduced at the beginning, and he's like, I'm evil and I'm racist, and the hero has the power of God and anime on his side, and he ends up beating the evil sheriff, and Huzzar, he manages to stave off conflict between the white people and the Comanche tribe, and he goes and lives on his ranch with his beautiful wife, while his brother, who is an antagonist throughout the whole book, goes and leads the Comanche tribe, because they do both jointly decide together that there's no possible way they're ever going to fucking raise a child amongst the Comanche tribe. Like, God forbid, can you imagine raising a child amongst the Native Americans? Again, you can't put forth this holier-than-thou anti-racist message in your book and then hit me over the fucking head with stuff like that. You can't do that, okay? It doesn't work. You're not you are being racist and then telling me, but don't be racist. It's not cool, guys. I almost had an aneurysm reading this book. So yeah, I mean, I've got, you can't see, but there are 3 books up there, 3 more books of Fabio's that I bought thinking that this would be like a fun, campy read and no more problematic than the average old school romance. And now I just feel like well, is it worth carrying on, you know, with those books over my head? Because this certainly was not fun nor enjoyable for me. We'll see though. One of the books is about, it's called Pirate, I think. It's about a man who is a pirate and he saves a 12-year-old girl from a bunch of evil Spanish pirates. And he looks at this 12-year-old girl and he goes, she's sexy. She's only 12 though, so let me raise her like my own child and then engage in a sexual and romantic relationship with her when she's 18. So, I mean, it can only get worse from here. I tried to pick the worst one first, but I'm not confident that this is the worst one. So I guess at some point I will have to read the rest, and I'll let you know my findings, sadly, because if I have to go through that, you have to go through that too. But anyway, yeah, if you enjoyed this, give it a like, give me a follow, because I'm trying to grow the channel if you want to. Follow for more content like this. I talk about romance books, I talk about horror books, I talk about weird books, which I think this is definitely both, and I talk a little bit about my author journey, because my debut novel is coming out next year. That's exciting. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and I will see you in my next video.